If you haven't noticed, life has changed. Is 70 the new 50, and what that means to property will be live shortly.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes, episode 395, on the road with myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak. We're working longer, living longer. Is 70 the new 50? How will this affect property? Will this affect property? Let's talk about it. Mark, how are you?
Good morning, buddy. Good.
Good morning. Your car set up a little bit better than mine.
It is. It's changed. Hey, so what we were talking about this morning off air was basically how it's people living for longer. And I remember growing up that if you were in your 50s, if you were sort of in your 20s, 30s, and even 40s, you would dream of retiring in your 50s, or you dream of that was the thing. Playing golf and retiring in your 50s was the picture of success to a lot of people. And it doesn't seem like that's bred through the generations anymore. It poses the questions why, and it poses the question is, what are people doing with properties now?
Yeah, and I think there's a million different answers to look at this. You could say the life expectancy was a lot lower, so you could sort of see why where 50 came from or 60 came from, and then government policies matched that with what you could access your super, because they've even increased. Didn't they increase a few years ago? Super, they added 5 more years before you can get to retirement. So there's many reasons behind it, which you can sort of debate on. But at the end of the day, a lot of people now, it's quite common to be working 60, 65, 70, 75. Everyone knows the odd 80-year-old still plugging away. Harry Triggerboff had his 88th birthday, I think, on Friday, and he's still in the office every day. So, but I think you got that extreme, and then you've got the retiring at 40, 50. But I reckon everyone's added 10 to 20 years. So does that mean we're going to be in our houses longer, more concentrated where work is a lot longer? I think so. And I think kids are living with their parents as well a lot longer. I think it was quite common to be out of the home by 18, 22, married by 25,
making a baby.
It was very common for your age. Most of my friends' parents all had us under 30. But I think these days, a lot of people are having families 30 to 35. So I think everything's been pushed back or extended.
So we're almost noticing a pattern, aren't we? It's like life's getting elongated on that back end, and then on that 20 to 30, that's getting expanded out a little bit more as well. So I think that we're seeing that with people that are in there that were, that are now still working at the age of 60 and 70, and kids staying at home as well, it's putting more pressure on the actual accommodation. So I'm finding that rather than people getting in their 50s and maybe going to a townhouse or a smaller property before that, now people are actually staying in their existing property a lot longer. Good morning to Anmar, Luke. Luke, life is change. People living in their homes longer, less stock, true. Who would want to retire? Do you know what? That's a really good one, because for me personally, I almost think retirement's dying in a way, whereas if you're doing and it sounds really cliche, but if you're doing what you love with work, why wouldn't you just blow it out another 5, 10 or 15 years if you actually like what you're doing? Why do you have to sort of be that sort of success playing golf at the age of 55 in the golf course with your buddies? Why can't success be measured with just doing what you love at work?
Yeah, exactly right. I read a post we've had them on the show before, financial planners, and there was does everyone know what their F3 figure was, which was basically financial freedom? Because anyone who's working, they get caught in the trap of they go from starting, I want to make 10 grand a month to 100 grand a month to $1 million a month. And then they're comparing themselves with people making $10 million a month. And before they know it, they've got no life. 40 years has passed. And it's like, well, I've got too much money. What do I do? I've got no life. So it's that balance of, well, instead of retiring at 50, do you only work 2 days? Because let's face it, a lot of people's work is their social life. And where you said that, Mark, where retiring is dying, when you've worked 40, 50, 80 hours a week, and that is your social life and work life, and you cut that away, you're not just retiring from work, you're almost retiring from society. So a lot of people, they find outlets on the golf course, but there's only so much you can do. So I think people will find that balance of what they can do work longer, but take back the hours, which mean they may stay in the family home longer. If you look at a home loan, what's a home loan? 25, 30 years. So if people are now staying there an extra 10 or 20 years on top of just your repayment structure, there'll be a lot of people with not much debt at that time. It'll be interesting just to see where the cards fall.
And with balance as well, I think it's important if we look at our parents and what they're achieving as well, and also being a little bit social. Do you know what I mean? Like Luke's saying, and we thought, I think that that balance is also part of enjoying their work, where they, like you just said, work is their social life a little bit for the oldies, and then tying that back to accommodation, I guess it's going to mean these guys are going to live in their properties for longer. So rather than, if life expectancy and retirement villages is a big testament of that. Like, there's just so much. The retirement villages are growing greater than what the population's growing, because it seems to be more of a trend or more of a way of life that people are actually seeing out that sort of 80s and 90s in their life.
Yes.
So that's really interesting, because retirement villages are like tenfold what they were 15 years ago. Do you know what I mean? So 20 years ago. So it's really, really becoming a thing. So our point of today's story is accommodation is changing. Retirement villages is a perfect as a result of us living longer. Retirement villages are a perfect example of that, and staying in our properties are a perfect example of that, because there is a real problem in New South Wales and I think greater, and also Australia, that there's a lot of older people that they're now in their 70s. They're sitting on a big block of land and a big house, and now their kids are in their 40s with their own kids and gone. But it's just so expensive to actually get in and out of property and work that they just stay where they are. So empty nesters, they were talking about bringing in a stamp duty concession for people that are downsizing, that qualify, of course, to try to encourage those guys to abandon their big land and their big house, incentivize those guys, so then the younger families can get into these areas, because it's putting a lot of pressure on property prices.
You know what I was just thinking as well, Mark? By this, we've naturally almost got 20 more years of capital growth in our investment. So, and what I mean by that is, a lot of people have the concept, buy at early 20s, late 30s, hold your properties until you retire. And a lot of people retire at 55, sell everything, cash out, and go live with the money. But now, if you're going to be working till 75, you've almost got an inbuilt 20 years extra of growth in your investment property, in your home property, before you cash out and sell. So one, that's good. And then two, knowing that, then you've got more time. So maybe, I don't know, doing your degree, doing a bit of travel early, and then saving to buy and getting into the market at 30, 35, 40 may seem really late. But if you're working now till 70, that's the same as you buying at 20, retiring at 50. Obviously, the entries are going to be all different, but it's never too late if you're in your late 20s, early 30s and you haven't bought, because more than likely you're going to be working until 70, 75. And if you have bought in your early 20s, how good's that? You're holding it for an extra 15 years, 20 years.
So so what you're saying is owning owning property, a significant amount of property, to make a difference, or a property to make a difference, you used to be owning it for 40 years from
Yeah.
beginning from go to woe, and now you're owning it for 60 years.
Yes, 30 to
Maybe
like
longer,
you could have bought it.
maybe 70.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a I think it's pretty good. So it's imperative to
So the
sort of buy
oldies,
and hold.
the oldies are more cashed up, a lot more cashed up than they used to be, because their property value is going through another 2 cycles, which is double and double again.
Yep, and people
That's
my age,
interesting.
and people my age, we're basing our wealth off our parents who they were only buying property to hold for 30 years, but we're going to be buying property to hold for 60, 70 years. So it's even better.
Yeah, and I was saying you'll never be as young as you are today. Yeah, absolutely. So what does that mean? Let's go hard.
Yeah.
And encouraging downsizes is key. There might be sitting on 2 million equity on that pension. So it's a big thing, isn't it? There's big lazy money sitting there for a very, very long time. I think it's great. I think it's for retirees living longer, seeing your grandkids more, staying in their properties for longer. Kids are hanging around a bit longer. That's pretty obvious. They're not out the door and making babies at 22. I would suggest life's better on a lot more fronts than we think.
Well, Mark, also, as much as it's a bad thing, the older holding onto those properties and having all that equity, it's actually what's giving our market stability. If you look at how most people are financing property in the last 5 years, it's with a 5% deposit or a 10% deposit. So that means 90% of everyone's property is sort of owned by the bank. So by having a large portion of our population own their property outright or huge equity, it gives us stability. So as much as we would love for them to sell on and downsize, it actually gives our property market some great stability. So we don't want them all selling too quick. And everyone who owns a property is 90% geared. So it's good. It's that balance, isn't it?
I don't mean to sound churchy or anything, but good life.
Yeah.
Like if you look at that, if you look at some of these fundamentals facts that we spoke about today, that's a bloody good life. We're living longer. We got more. We're building more equity into our properties. There's lazy money sitting there. Also help our kids. Do you know what I mean? So if there's equity there, you can help your kids out possibly a little bit with a deposit and stuff like that, because you're staying 10 or 20 years longer in the home than you traditionally did.
That's the biggest advice for any parents out there who the biggest thing you could do, especially if you're still working, is use your equity to buy properties for your kids and set them up, because it's lazy money. If you bought a home 20 years ago and you owe 200 grand on it, it's worth it's worth 2 million, which is so realistic. 200, like if you bought it 15, 20 years ago for 800 grand and you've still got a debt of 200 grand, but now it's worth 2 million. Like Mark, anyone who bought in DY 15 years ago paid 800K for it. So they would have, that's like a perfect thing. And they could easily buy 2 or 3 properties, apartments or one house for their kids. And in 20 years, it's going to make a difference, especially when we just traded a knock. Because one thing, which is almost another topic, is soon when knockdowns are now $2 million, Mark, the income to get a loan for that, compared to selling a unit for 900 grand, buying an entry level at 1.2, compared to selling your unit for 950 and buying an entry level at 2 million, you forget the cash component of it. You almost need double the income, double your pay slip, and that's not very doable for a lot of people, if anyone, to double it in a short amount of time or get the cash to cover the difference. So more than ever, for the people, the parents at home, pull some money out, buy it in your name or for the kids. I think it's, use that lazy money, especially if you're still working. I think that's a wrap.
That's a wrap, guys. Interesting observation. I love taking stuff that's happening around us and actually talking about it, because sometimes you just it's all going by and you miss it. That's a big one. People are getting older. They're changing their properties. There's more money there in some. It's all good, mate. Have a great day, everyone. Monday looks like it's good weather out there today. It's holding.
Yeah.
It's not going to be sunny. It's not going to be in sunny
Novak's
Sydney.
weather
All right,
report.
legend.
Cheers. Bye.
That's it. See you guys. Take care. Love you. See ya. Bye. Brand and have you frozen?